Hey. 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 I can't do it normally. It's so weird. Hey. I'm Rosinkranz. I made an album. It's called Just Because. It's about last year's experiences. At first, the album didn't have one overarching concept. It was like very random to me and very scatterbrained, and that's also because I was in the thick of experiencing while writing the songs. It wasn't, I wrote it, I healed from it, and then wrote about it. It was like I was living it and writing it at the same time, and so now coming out of that, I actually see that it is a lot more cohesive than I thought, because it captured the first transitional, or like real transitional year of my life, and also it was like a healing journal. The whole thing is like holds a lot of purpose now, when before I was like, oh, I made this album just because. Also, if I was giving into what I was actually going through, if I had made all the songs sound how they actually felt in the moment, it would have been a lot darker, and I think it would have been fine, but at the time it would have made me feel like I was drowning, and so I'm happy that a lot of the songs are a little bit happier, because that is part of like healing sometimes, having to pull yourself out of a darker place by making it sound really pretty and fun. But some of the songs I was not having a very pretty or fun time. Screw time. I wrote that song so that I could step back into a time where I was just messing around and didn't really think about anything else except for the things I was experiencing with my friends, and off-roading and going to really pretty lookouts that we would always go to. And I don't know. I think also there's a lot of people who didn't get to experience kind of that year of just being a teenager, and so people can kind of live vicariously through that. I still live vicariously through it sometimes, because I'm in a different season of my life, which I love, but I loved that time of just growing up and being a kid and doing whatever I wanted. Polarized happened after Sad in Hawaii, and I had a falling out with a friend, and I've never had that happen to me. And so again, I didn't know what to do with my emotions, and I was super angry at first. And so I have a lot of other songs that are a lot more angry than Polarized, but like it's just about not having the same opinion or views on a certain situation, and sometimes you just have to, or the best thing you can do is agree to disagree. But I still was just like, how in the world do you see it this way and I see it this way? Like, we saw it so differently, and that's like what polarization is. It's like division between different people with very strong, sharp views. Yeah, I was angry, I think, recording that song. I wrote Wes Anderson, and then at the end of Wes Anderson, I did an ad-lib part, and then we ended up cutting that ad-lib part off of Wes Anderson, and I kept just singing lonely, 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 whatever. And so I really liked the vibe of that, and then we ended up making a whole entire song about being lonely. But even though when I made that song, I wasn't actually lonely, but I went to Hawaii after I wrote that song, and I went through some stuff that made me write Sad in Hawaii. But it was cool because I experienced something that made me feel super alone, and isolated, going through this really super fun experience. But the only thing I kind of really actually clinged on to was listening to that song, and I didn't even know that I would have an experience that made me feel that way. So it had a purpose after all, even though it didn't start with one. And that's my favorite song. I like them all for different reasons, but that's been like the one that is consistently my favorite. It makes me feel something. Swinging at the Stars was inspired by a summer fling I had maybe like 2 years ago, but the like heart of the concept was wanting to experience the fullness of living and doing it with another person and experiencing beautiful things with somebody else. And also just I have found out that I love to feel everything, and I also love to put myself through situations that make me feel a lot and experience a lot. And I think that's also just like I'm obsessed with the abundance that comes with being alive, but like the fact that we get to, or like I'm capable of feeling all these things and all these emotions is so cool. And so if I can touch all the corners of what that is, that's what the song feels like, I guess. Did that make sense? I'm always like, does this make sense? My brain is so ADHD, so it just wants to go.